Love finances, the other F word, and want to support the show? Become a patron by going to patreon.com/FTOFW. You'll get special features, a shout out on the air, and early releases. Or if you prefer, pick up some merchandise at financestheotherfword.com.
As fantastic a CFP as Mel O is, and as wonderful an attorney as I am, please do note that anything said in our show are our opinions alone and are not meant to be taken as financial or legal advice.
Welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, a Gen Xer podcast for musicians and music lovers, where we discuss money and music without all the pretentious bullshit. Here are your hosts, Zoe Terry, attorney at large, and Mel O, certified financial planner and author of Finances, the Other F Word. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to Finances, the Other F Word. I am Mel O, your host, and today we are finishing out our series on social media companies and if they are in fact too big. Now, when we started this series, we started talking about Twitter, which was a famous target of the Trump administration. Then we moved to Facebook, which we have covered in previous shows where we're talking about Facebook, the monopoly. And now, of course, we are ending it on TikTok, who was also another big attack platform for the Trump administration. And so what I wanted to know was it a politically motivated bias, or in fact, are these social media companies too big? And so we're finding kind of a couple things, kind of a mixed bag of stuff. So let's focus on TikTok. Now, TikTok is the big up-and-comer. TikTok is the one that is currently threatening Facebook. We see that Facebook has come out with its own TikTok version, which is Lasso, which I've never even fucking heard of. But apparently Lasso is out there trying to compete with TikTok. We've seen that Instagram has also tried to come online and try to compete against TikTok. And of course, we know that Facebook and Instagram are the same company. So let's real quickly talk about some of the usage of TikTok so you can see what a monster this app has become. There is 1 billion monthly active users on the platform. The app has been downloaded 2.6 billion times worldwide. 39% of the United States, or 130 million active users, use this platform every month from the United States. Now, TikTok, of course, is a younger platform with 10 to 19-year-olds and 20 to 29-year-olds making up about 60% of the usage on it. However, we do have a surprising number of 50 years older of about 7.1%. Now, as far as users in the U.S., most of them are female for TikTok, about 60%, and 40% of them are male. And, we have varying degrees of how much time people spend on the app. Up to the younger generations use TikTok considerably more, and we're looking at about 80 minutes a day for somebody who's between the age of 4 and 14. Gen Zs, of course, is heavy users of this platform, but let's focus on what we're talking about. Are social media companies, like, how big are they? Because, there's what happens a lot of times is when we're looking at the size of companies, we know that, TikTok might be the upstart, and we know that people are downloading it, and you see that your friends are downloading it. But we don't have a real grasp on how monstrous these companies really are in their size and how much data they are actually taking in on us. So TikTok is owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, all right? And TikTok each year generates $500 million in revenue for this company. But let's put that into the Chinese currency. That would be 3,165,450,000 yuan that TikTok generates. Now, China, because of their government, has their own version of TikTok, all right, which they control and which, of course, they limit the content that's used on it. So TikTok, primarily used in the United States, generates $500 million for this Chinese company. And like I said, Facebook has been trying to catch the the running of this TikTok app, and quite frankly, I don't think they're ever going to catch up. TikTok is just a monster currently. Now, a funny statistic is when we're looking at social media platforms as far as are they too big, one of the things we covered in our previous show was Disney with Monopoly, and we've talked about how Disney owns and runs 40% of the media sector. We talked about that threat. Well, last year, we found out that TikTok was the second most downloaded app behind Disney Plus. So there's various different ways that TikTok uses your data to make money, as most all other social media platforms do. They have brand takeover ads that can run anywhere from $20 to $200,000. They have hashtag challenges that will cost $100,000. And they have ad campaigns that can run, something simple as 50 a day. But TikTok encourages all of the people who want to advertise on it to plan on spending at least $100,000 to $200,000. So the thing is that you need to know that when we're talking about the amount of money that these companies are generating off of your data, this is a fuck ton of money, you guys. And the thing is that, you've heard the saying, and I'm going to repeat it here. If you are getting it for free, then you're the product. All right. So like I mentioned, ByteDance is the owner out of China, which has caused a lot of issues in the United States, being that this is a Chinese-owned company. And in mainland China, it's Douyin is the version of TikTok, which is basically works the same way, but heavier scrutinies. And of course, ByteDance owns a whole bunch of other different products, as most social media companies do. So what we do is we see social media companies come out, they start generating revenue, and they just start accumulating. We talked about that with Twitter. We talked about that with Facebook. So let's talk about, should we be afraid of TikTok? Because during the Trump administration, TikTok was a huge target because of the simple fact that Trump had issues with China. And there was tariffs, if you remember, during his administration that were very much attacking China. And so that made TikTok a very easy target. And of course, because there was a concern that United States data was being transferred to China, then it became somewhat of a national security issue. Even President Biden, okay, so the Trump administration went after social media hot and heavy, but even President Biden, when he was a candidate in the fall of 2020, he was quoted as saying that he thinks that TikTok was a matter of genuine concern. And you can see that this continues to kind of permeate a little bit through, even though Trump is no longer in office, where people are concerned and quite frankly afraid of China for various different reasons. There's a whole bunch of studies here that I'm going to quote, but one of the studies was by the Citizen Lab, and they found that there was no, quote, overt data transmission by TikTok to Chinese governments. And that it further found that the servers that held all of the U.S. data were in fact stateside. Now, one of the things that we saw in the Trump administration was that he was forcing TikTok, if they wanted to do business over here in the United States, he was forcing TikTok to turn over the U.S. operations to a United States company. And at the time, ByteDance was in talks with Oracle. And soon as, of course, as soon as Trump was no longer in office, we see that ByteDance, there was a reporting that came out of the South China Morning Post that, of course, said that now that President Trump is no longer, former President Trump is no longer in office, that they felt that there was really no reason that they needed to continue that, so they've abandoned the whole thing. However, like I just stated, Citizen Lab is saying that there is no overt transmission of data to China, and that we are actually keeping that data stateside. Now, if you have servers or if you have information in China, at any time the Chinese government can request copies of that data or that information on that data. And so this was what the big stink was. This is why it was a big deal that those operations come stateside, or that those servers that have our data is stateside, so that we as Americans would not be subject to basically Chinese government law as far as in relation to our data. So let's talk a little bit about what data TikTok actually does take from you, okay? So they have some similar information as Facebook, but then some information is slightly different. So they take your device information. So they want to know what kind of device are you using. Are you using iPad? Are you using Android? Are you using, your iPhone? And they have the identifiers and the network addresses and the names of where exactly these devices are held. They want to know your usage patterns, which makes sense. What are the peak hours? When are you normally on the social media platform if they're trying to target you, or if you're just a 1 in a million of numbers where they're trying to target you for a specific ad when you fit their demographic they're looking for. They want to know what posts you've liked, okay, which are obvious as well. And they want to know your age, again, all for targeting. They want to know your username. They want to know your gender and your email address, okay? But then also what they want to know is they want to know all of your online activity. They want to be able to track your data through multiple sources, and they want to know the content of your messages. So when you're using the app and you're sending messages back and forth, they want to be able to track that conversation, and we find this in most every other social media platform as well. So, of course, ByteDance owns TikTok as well as a whole bunch of other things. But this is the thing that's most interesting, is that we see that, India has come out and they have banned TikTok, and they've also banned 58 other apps made by Chinese companies. And we see in June of 2020 that Ireland's Data Protection Commissioner came out and said, we have concern that the data of the citizens of the EU, which is the European Union, may be accessed by AI engineers in China. And we covered AI in episode number 335 and all the ways that it's used to take your data and the way it's used to track you and to put things in front of you. The information that AI has on you as a user of any social media platform is beyond scary, but more importantly, it probably knows you better than you know yourself, because for years and years and years that we've been using social media, it's just constantly collecting data on us, right? So there's this whole big hubbub and this concern over TikTok. But what we find is that the biggest concern should be with other Chinese apps such as Zoom and Agora. Now, Zoom came into massive usage, obviously during quarantine. So the people that weren't temporarily out of work, that were still working, they needed to communicate with the people in the offices. They need to find a way to, communicate and keep projects running, etc. So Zoom went from, something that was used by the few to into the stratosphere of usage. Well, we find that Zoom actually has admitted to routing, so that could be some of it or all of it, routing the meeting data through China. And Agora, the Chinese audio streaming technology provider, does the same thing. And you know who uses Agora? Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is another app that came on board right before we went into quarantine. It was used a lot during quarantine so people could feel a connection and they could have conversations with other people. So we have Zoom and Agora, both of those apps that are routing information through China, but we seem to see that the target is on TikTok, which again, based on the results of different studies, which we're going to get in here in a minute, they're saying it's not going through China, and they're really not collecting that much different data on you than everybody else is. But Zoom and Agora, for some reason, gets a pass. But think about that for 1 second. Think about how much classified shit is on Zoom. Think of how much confidential, intellectual property, formulas, new business strategies, new products. Think about all that shit that's discussed on Zoom, and Zoom goes through China and nobody seems to bat an eye. So what they did was they wanted to look at as far as like TikTok filtering. Now, we talked about this when we talked about Twitter, when we talked about Facebook. So we want to talk a little bit about TikTok's filters, because the belief is that since they're a Chinese company, that they would be somehow limiting what it was that we could see. And so Citizens Lab again researched, and they did find that some politically charged or sensitive posts had become unavailable, but this was inconclusive because they could not prove if the user had actually deleted the post or not. And so the filters seem to be relatively loose on TikTok as far as when they tested high profile words that would trigger other filters. They did not seem to get the same reaction, but at the same time, they can't tell if TikTok did in fact remove those episodes or not. So we have a whole bunch of different, things coming out, and where cybersecurity is involved. So Monica Eaton Cardone, who is a cybersecurity expert, suggested, quote, all of the serious cyber risks facing the average consumer, TikTok isn't on the top of the list. Most Americans ought to be way more concerned about credit card fraud and password protection than TikTok. All right. Then we see that Chester Winisky, I'm going to go with that, at Sophos agreed, and he is quoted as saying, quote, TikTok doesn't pose any more risk to a user than any other social media sharing application. This isn't to say that there isn't risk, but it's not really any different than Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. All right. And we see finally that Paul Bishkoff, who is a privacy advocate, so this man is a privacy advocate for Comparitech, comes out and says, quote, TikTok's supposed risk to national security was mostly, if not all, politically motivated, embellished with no evidence to back them up. And so what we're finding that as people are researching TikTok, that there doesn't seem, at least at this point in time, a reason to be concerned, and that in fact the targeting of TikTok by the prior administration seems to be politically motivated. And it seems to be because of the simple fact that the company that owns this is based out of China. Now, you can do whatever you want to do with that. I don't really care. I'm just telling you that based on the information, the accusations on the TikTok app don't seem to be holding water in the same way that the former administration might say. Now, TikTok does access your microphone and your camera, but it also accesses your contacts, your clipboard, and location services. So now let's take this to, let's play devil's advocate here. Now, location services it tracks, and I'm sure a lot of the other social media platforms do. However, since this is a Chinese-owned company, you do have to ask yourself, is that a concern that it tracks your location? And, we have like on the iPhones now, anytime your app boots up, if it's a new app, it says, ask app not to track. And I don't know how it does on Android, but basically you say, yeah, no, don't track my movements, and it's supposed to turn that off. Well, the hope is that it's really doing that, right? Now, the thing is, though, is that with any social media platforms, since these companies are giant fucking monster companies, you do have to be somewhat concerned with the fact that it is tracking your location in some way. That if you ever, think of somebody who might be a target of a Chinese government or something of that nature, and if they can track the location of the person, well, that would make them a lot easier to find. And so this is just things that, I kind of want to do like the devil's advocate for you to think of when you're trying to weigh both sides of the argument. Now, TikTok again has said that it does store its information from the United States on the servers in the United States, and that it is not subject to laws regarding China, meaning that China, again, cannot come in and ask for information off these servers. Now, the thing is that TikTok did actually have to settle a lawsuit to the tune of $92 million because it was taking biometric data from minors, including face prints and voice prints. And so that is also a concern. And so then the question is that a relation to the fact that TikTok is too big, or is that just in relation to that's the normal growing pains? And so that really rounds out our series. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys something to offset the information you're hearing about social media companies being too big and them trying to do this or trying to do that or trying to access your data, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be something that we continue to look at, though, because I don't think that social media will continue in the way that it has been going. I think at some point we're going to have regulations that really do come in pretty hard and heavy and regulate this space. And it is going to be interesting to see, as the administrations historically flip back and forth, if we see that social media and TikTok and Twitter in specific become targets of the administrations going forward. So with that, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys follow us on social media at Finance is the Other F Word. You can get my book, Finance is the Other F Word, Another F Word to Love. Check out the YouTube channel at Finance is the Other F Word. And of course, we're on Twitch at FTOFW Pod and TikTok at FTOFW_podcast. I will talk with you guys later, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening. If you like us, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.